Welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm Cynthia Pooler. My guest today is Alan Collinge. And Alan and I have been doing interviews for quite a few years. And this year he decided to throw his hat into the ring for President of the United States. And we've got 37 days left until the election. So, Alan, from your perspective, how's it going?
It's not going well, Cynthia. As you know, I've been fighting for student loan justice for 20 years now. And in all the presidents that have come and gone, all the presidential elections that we've seen participated in, I've never seen both political parties so clearly and blatantly abandon and betray student loan borrowers. The politics are just poisonous for us right now. We have on the right, we have a president who hasn't mentioned student loans, but for kind of a throwaway line in the last debate. He really doesn't talk about student loans. That is Donald Trump. He did before he ran for president, by the way. He said some very good things. But as president and here as candidate, he hasn't put anything out there. On the other hand, we have the Democrats who, at least historically, were supposed to be our champions. You know, they've been promising since 2005 to return bankruptcy protections to student loans. Hillary made it a part of her campaign. Joe Biden made it a huge part of his campaign in 2020.
That makes me laugh every time you mention or I hear something. Bro, Joe Biden is the architect that put all these people in hot water.
Oh, I probably should mention that every time I talk about Joe Biden. It's true. As a junior senator in the early mid 70s, he was a surprisingly key guy that got bankruptcy taken away from federal student loans initially, and on all through his career, he's been supporting legislation that nicked away this fundamental, constitutionally enshrined right of bankruptcy. People out there don't realize bankruptcy is leverage. Nobody wants to file for bankruptcy, but everybody has the power of bankruptcy in their back pocket. And that keeps the credit card companies behaving fairly. It keeps all the lenders behaving fairly. It's been taken away uniquely from student loans. And Joe Biden deserves a lot of credit for that. Now, here, uh, 2024, I am very sad to report, Cynthia, that the Democratic Party has taken the return of bankruptcy rights out of their agenda. Kamala Harris, there's no way that she's going to fight for bankruptcy. And quite frankly, Cynthia, Kamala Harris is worse than Joe Biden. And I know that sounds maybe superlative, but I'm here to tell you, um, Kamala Harris's backers, a very wealthy billionaire San Francisco liberal family called the Swig family. When our petition started really cooking and student loan cancellation by executive order became a national issue, thanks to our petition, change.org/cancel student loans, I'm proud to say, this woman, Mary Swig, SWIG, she stood up and said, no, 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 no. She circulated a memo around influential Democrats saying the president cannot cancel student loans by executive order. She had no argument, nothing. But very shortly thereafter, very key Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, Susan Rice, this kind of California clique of Democrats, they all came out in opposition to student loan cancellation. And ultimately, when the Supreme Court nixed Biden's very feeble attempt, they mentioned Pelosi verbatim. And Pelosi was parodying this woman, Mary Swig. Now, the key clinching point to all of this is that it is the Swig family, wealthy real estate family, San Francisco. The Swig family launched Kamala Harris's career.
Hmm.
So, you see Kamala talking about, oh, I'm going to give everybody a $25,000 first time home buyer
Right.
subsidy. That's a giveaway to the real estate industry.
Okay.
And, oh, I'm going to build 3 million new homes. That's a giveaway to the real estate industry.
Mhm.
And these very same people went out of their way to kill student loan cancellation. The Democrats have pulled away from bankruptcy. So the 40 million people, not all student loan borrowers, just 85% of all federal student loan borrowers, more actually, who are losing sleep over their student loans. They are distressed. These 38, 40 million people, we've got no party. The Republicans hate us, obviously, but the Democrats have abandoned us. So it is.
I I have two issues that I want to bring to your attention. Number one is the military budget. I mean, that's outrageous. All the money that's going to the Ukraine, all the money that's going to Israel, and nobody says boo about that. But somebody who is up to debt with student loans, who wants to make something of their life, they're criticized and crucified for it.
That's right. That's the zeitgeist has become just completely toxic against student loan borrowers. We're portrayed as these lazy, entitled, arrogant kids who borrowed too much. And Cynthia, I'm here to tell you the opposite is true. Most student loan borrowers are older, over the age of 35, than under the age of 35. And the people have repaid their loans. In fact, the Department of Education has gotten nearly every nickel back that it ever lent out. The $1.8 trillion outstanding, that's interest, that's profit for the government. So, unlike all our military spending, I strongly agree, all the money that we piss away and $7 trillion in the deserts of Iraq and Afghanistan, and here coming up, who knows how much we're going to throw into the Mideast and Central
And
Europe.
the scary part about this is with all these weapons, tomorrow we could all be wiped off the face of the earth.
You know, that's right. And I go back, well, we could go back as long as you want in history of the Mideast, but both parties are very culpable here. Donald Trump, for example, he says we don't handle Iran correctly. Donald Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal with Iran. And the way that deal was structured, we gave Iran hundreds of billions of dollars at the beginning of that deal. So they got their part in the beginning of the deal. And then, right as they were supposed to reduce their uranium's reprocessing, that's when Donald Trump pulled out. He was like, "Oh, it's a bad deal." No, it made no sense what Donald Trump did. He made the region less safe. Iran is fully free to weaponize uranium. I think your friend Scott Ritter would probably agree with me on this. It just made
Mhm.
no sense. But then on the other hand, we have the Biden administration, and I have to say, compared to when I was a kid, we've seen a 100% reversal in the roles between the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats appear to be the guys who kind of want to stay out of foreign conflicts, whereas, the Hillary Clinton wing, maybe we should call it the Dick Cheney wing these days, seeing as how he
Right,
endorsed Kamala Harris. We've got these warmongers on the Democratic side. And
right.
so I don't know what to make of it. The final point that I've never heard anybody make in the past couple of years is the Ukrainian people need to vote. As soon as that invasion happened, the first thing Zelensky did was call martial law and suspend all elections. The Ukrainians have still not voted, Cynthia. Like,
Mhm.
we know what Zelensky wants to do. We know what Putin wants to do. Every major country in the world has weighed in with their own positions. The only group we don't know whose position is on this thing are the Ukrainian people. So let the Ukrainians vote, for God's sake, and let the democracy that supposedly we're fighting for actually function, and let the Ukrainians determine their own path forward.
That's a really good point. I commend you on that. That's good. So, how's your campaign going?
Well, at this point, Cynthia, we are a protest campaign.
Okay.
Absolutely through and through. We are a write-in campaign. We won't be on any ballots. We already knew that going in. We've been registering with as many states as possible so that write-in votes for me will count. Um, getting a lot of bureaucratic rejections, a lot of administrative pushback from the various state governments, secretaries of state, etc. Um, it's hard to say, but I'm guessing that our votes for me will probably only count in maybe 30 states or so roughly over half the states.
Okay.
Um, but I tell people voting for a D or an R is throwing your vote away, no matter who you vote for. In my humble opinion, I think
Hmm.
both of these parties are wrecking this country. They've got this country in a in a death grip. And so, if you're going to throw your vote away, and I'm thinking of maybe not even publishing which states count my votes for me and which don't, just to keep people guessing. You may as well lodge a protest vote. And certainly, if you have student loans, the most meaningful vote you can cast is for me. I will erase and replace student loans. That's the very first thing I will do on day one by
You,
executive order,
you
whatever it
know what?
takes.
What really gets me? The other day I saw a video that Jimmy Dore did, and
Mhm.
Jimmy Dore was complaining that his numbers were going down, meaning he's being censored. So in this country, you put the TV on if you watch MSNBC, or CNN or Fox to and they're not telling the absolute truth to the American people, but they're not being censored like the alternative media is being censored. So if the mainstream media is telling lies and the alternative media is being censored, how does one get information?
That's I'm trying to figure that out myself, Cynthia. The mainstream media has completely been captured by, I call it the uniparty. Maybe other people want to call it the wealthy elite, the establishment, whatever you want to call it. Journalism is essentially dead at this point, Cynthia. At this point, and I've been living and breathing the student loan issue for 20 years now. I've been featured on 60 Minutes and every major network, interviewed on Fox News and MSNBC and everything in between. And I can tell you that certainly from the perspective of student loans, even barely minimally adequate journalism is dead. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore that I can find. Very few and far between. I'll find a good, usually a younger reporter who's willing to just simply tell important truths. But um, this is a media landscape that nobody, you, me, everybody, we've never lived through anything like this before. It's been almost completely propagandized by one side or the other, and the actual truth is the victim. And I can only tell people, don't don't buy it. Don't buy the propaganda. Know that big money is determining what messages you hear. Most importantly, what truths you don't hear. My group on Facebook has been shadow banned. We're probably the poster child for shadow banning. This started back in 2009, 10, 11 on Facebook. Happens on Twitter as well. Twitter is not some golden bastion of free speech. Um, Censorship is a very real thing here. And I would say that we are a good 2 steps closer to tyranny in this country than we were even 10 years ago.
Well, so if you do not win the presidency and either Harris or Trump wins, what do you foresee for all of the student loan borrowers?
It's the Wild West out there, Cynthia. Right now, as we speak, student loan borrowers are looking down a very cruel, dystopian downhill slide. The loans have been turned down for a year now, but there's sort of a break in collection activities for the first year that expires October 1st. And if you Google student loans, it's quite hilarious. If you do a news search for Google for student loans today, what you'll see is just massive marketing machine, media marketing propaganda machine, trying to get everybody to sign up for this new income driven payment plan, the save plan, or to use something called fresh start to get their defaulted loans out of default. And I'm here to warn everybody, don't do it. It's a trick. Everything the Department of Education and its predatory contractors put in front of you is a trick. It's a trap. And 20 years of very diligent, consistent uh, research have demonstrated beyond a shadow of a doubt that that is always true. So there's a very high pressure sales pitch right before the election. Conveniently, the Democrats want student loan borrowers under maximum pressure right as early voting begins and voting finally commences on November 5th. And right now, almost all of those votes are going to redound to the Democrats because their rhetoric at least sounds pretty nice, right? Oh, we want to help you. Kamala's position was exactly one sentence this year that said something like, "I want to help student loan borrowers." She said nothing in detail, but that is far better than what the Republican rhetoric is, which is pay your loans, don't be lazy. Like, it just makes blood shoot out of my eyes, Cynthia. We have people on this group who have repaid 500% more than they borrowed, but still owe after 30, 40 years, 3, 4, 500% more than they borrowed. This is a predatory loan scam, and both parties are just ignoring it. And I can't believe that they're both willing to throw away 40 million votes.
Mm-hmm.
But because the Republicans are so vicious and antagonistic towards student loan borrowers, the Democrats really don't have to do anything but say some mildly kind things without promising anything, and that's what they're doing. So we're in a very dark time, and I can only tell people it's going to get very, very vicious and very, very brutal starting Tuesday. And
So let me ask you this, Alan. You're talking about both major parties that are not embracing what you're saying. Do you think that both major parties are in cahoots with this issue? Do they, I mean, it sounds
well,
like it to me.
they both got their reasons for their positions. The Republicans, I suspect, and I know the Republicans are just completely beholden to the lending industry, and also the for-profit colleges. And the Democrats love this lending system. The colleges love this lending scam. It feeds them, $100 billion a year almost in loans. Um, Neither side wants to stop this. There's no financial incentive for them to do so. It's not like my group can come up with $1 million or even $100,000 or even $1 checks to throw at politicians like the colleges do. We can't offer these congressmen, no work, tenured faculty positions at our school when they retire, which happens all the time on both sides of the aisle. We don't have the sort of power that the moneyed interests, that is the colleges, the lenders, and others who are benefiting from this loan scam. We don't have the monetary power that they do. So the only thing that we have is our vote. And it would appear to me that the Democrats and the Republicans together have found a way, or maybe the banks and the colleges together, student loan industry, have found a way to essentially marginalize us and degrade us to being inconsequential. But I'm here to tell you,
But
Cynthia.
over 40 million people, how could 40 million potential votes be inconsequential?
Exactly. The logic of it is baffling. It's astounding to me. It mystifies me. Donald Trump tomorrow could get up and say, you know what, as president, I'm going to make sure that standard bankruptcy protections get returned to student loans. He could
Uh,
say that. And 10, 15 million people would vote for him as a result of that, rather than voting for Kamala, or what's maybe more likely, not voting at all. He could win the election with just one sentence like that. He wouldn't lose any votes from his base.
Right.
Polling of Republicans shows that like 67% of Republicans agree that student loans should be dischargeable in bankruptcy. So I just don't understand what is so important and special about this failed, unconstitutional loan scam that certainly the Republicans are willing to lose everything to keep it going. It makes no
Wow.
sense.
Wow. So we have how many more days? 37, you said?
I think we're at 36 or 37 days now. I've got a little over a
Okay.
month.
So right after the election, I'll give you a call. We'll do another show, and so you could share your thoughts on the election, and maybe I'll be calling you Mr. President at that point.
You
And,
never know. 40 million people is enough to elect a president outright in a three-way
right,
race.
right.
Um, Maybe my last word, I'll make a prediction. If Donald Trump and the Republicans don't do anything on student loans between now and the election, Donald Trump will lose. He's going to lose Michigan. He's going to lose Pennsylvania. He's going to lose Georgia. He will not win the election. In fact, he'll lose it rather convincingly. That's
Because
my
of
prediction.
this issue.
Because of the student loan issue, yes. I hope that changes. I hope the Republicans come around. People like Ron DeSantis, Matt Gaetz, Josh Hawley, John
Mhm.
Cornyn, they have all called, and Thomas Massie, they've all called, even some of them have co-sponsored legislation that would return bankruptcy to student loans. So the Republicans know what they need to do. I hope they do it before the election, just to get the ball rolling on this. But I don't know, Cynthia. It's crazy times out there. It's the Wild West.
Okay, so I'll contact you after the election and we'll do another show and you talk about, share your thoughts on exactly what's going on.
That sounds great, Cynthia. And everybody out there,
Okay,
remember
right.
collingeforpresident.com.
Okay.
COLLINGE forpresident.com. This is the 11th hour. Tell everybody you know with student loans about my campaign.
And you're on Facebook?
I'm on Facebook, Twitter. We're on most of the platforms.
Okay, great.
YouTube.
Okay, if somebody, can I be bold enough to ask you, is your email address on any of your social media that they could contact you through social media, through
It's
email?
on all it's on all of our social media. It's at the website as well.
Okay,
And I'm usually pretty good about responding to emails.
okay. Okay, so we'll talk after the election, and until then, best of luck. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You've been listening to Alan Collinge, uh, the founder of Student Loan Justice, and I'm Cynthia Pooler. If you like this show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a great day.